Man, does everything just seem weird in this video? I've been messing with my camera. It's playing tricks on me. Everything seems to be backwards, but some stuff is upside down. Some stuff is right side up. Some stuff reads correctly. Some stuff doesn't read correctly. I don't know a lot about technology, but my camera is playing some tricks on me today for this video. So if the background looks a little weird, just pay attention to what I'm saying and not things in the background because I can't fix it in my camera. I apologize. So this video is going to be my review of Stephen King's third novel, The Shining. And by way of introduction, I am Brian Lee Durfee, the author of The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. I don't know if you can read any of it. Looking at the camera, it just seems weird to me. Anyway, let's get right to the review, okay? So, this is going to be an unpopular review with a lot of Stephen King fans. So stay tuned to the end for my final rating. This is going to be an unpopular review. Regardless, I love you all. I love all of my viewers. Please, thank you for watching my videos. Forgive me for this review. You know I love Stephen King, but I'm going to talk about this third book that's a highly, highly, highly popular book with most people. Most people think it's one of his greatest. However, the first time I read it, I was young, and I had already read maybe a half a dozen to a dozen Stephen King books before I got to this one. And at the time, this one was the most disappointing one to me. And I think that might have something to do with the fact that I was a huge, huge fan of the Stanley Kubrick film, The Shining, with Jack Nicholson before I ever read this. So the film, we can all agree it's one of the classic horror films in the world. I actually think this is a case where the film director and the screenplay writer might have wrote a little better story than what Stephen King actually wrote in the novel. I know I'm going to get hammered for this in the comments. Go ahead, leave your own opinions. I'm not going to be offended or afraid of your opinions. Please, let's have a discussion. Not every Stephen King book is for everybody. This one, it falls lower on my list of all the Stephen King books. I will be honest with you. But I love Stephen King regardless, you know. Not every book is going to be for everybody. That was my first reading when I was younger. So the second time I read it was when the novel Dr. Sleep was going to come out. And so I reread this one to prime myself for Dr. Sleep, which is a sequel to this. Again, I was just kind of like, I'm not really into it. I'm just not really that into this book. And then the third time I read it was just this week. And instead of reading it just out of the book, what I did was I followed along. I opened the book and I followed along word for word for the audible.com narration read by Campbell Scott. Well, Campbell Scott's a great actor, and he did a good job with the narration. I can't say anything bad about the narration other than I loved Ron McClarty and Sissy Spacek's readings of Salem's Lot and Carrie. A little better, but Campbell Scott did a good job. That being said, let's dive into some of the reasons and some of the things I did like, some of the things I didn't like. So the plot, we all kind of know the plot if we watched the movie or read the book. We all know the plot. It's kind of a haunted house type story taking place in the Overlook Hotel in Colorado, where a family goes for the winter to watch the hotel and keep it going over the winter to make sure nothing freezes, all this kind of stuff. They're just kind of babysitting the hotel. Now, the family is comprised of Danny, his mother Wendy, and his father Jack. Now, Danny, as we know, has a thing. He's a young boy, but he's got a thing that's called The Shining, which is partly he sees things that are in the future. He has some clairvoyance. He has some precognitive abilities, and this when they get into the hotel, he starts to see visions of what the hotel was like in the past, and it had kind of a shaky history, a bloody history, and these visions start to play with him. Now, I'm not going to do spoilers. We don't do spoilers in these reviews. I just talk about general plot themes, things I did and did not like. I did like some of Danny's storyline. We all know that the best part of the movie Ready Player One was the Shining flashback, the Shining parts where the Ready Player One guy went into the Shining book and movie and had to figure out clues. That was the best part of Ready Player One. I will never do a review of Ready Player One, the movie. I didn't like it, but I might at some point do a review of Ready Player One, the book, which I loved. However, that aside, we know that little Danny has some clairvoyance powers that his parents don't know about. And now his parents are another two people that have their own problems, of course. Everybody in Stephen King's novels. This is one of the reasons that everybody loves Stephen King's novels, because he talks about real people and real situations. And yeah, this is a haunted house type thing in this hotel with this book. And Danny has some clairvoyance, and he's got the Shining, you know. But that's not where the horror truly lies in this story, which is the one thing I do like about the story, is the horror actually lies in Danny's father's personality. Jack Torrance, the father of Danny, actually is the most horrific thing in the book, because, you know, he grew up with a past. He was abused as a kid. He has anger issues. He developed alcoholism, and these things come out in horrific ways in the book, where he abuses his family in disturbing ways. And that's really the true horror of The Shining, not really the haunted hotel and the creepy things that Danny sees, although those are good. It's the creepy thing that the father does. And I won't get into spoilers of what he does and who he kills and who dies and all that, or who the hero is. I'm not going to get into that, because for those of you who haven't read it, read it, watch the movie, enjoy it on your own, see the twists and turns coming. Now, those things are the good things. The things that I did not like is I felt like this novel, just though it had all the Stephen King trickery in it, it just fell a little flat for me, in that I found my mind wandering off once in a while. And in most Stephen King books, my mind does not wander off. My mind wandered off a few times to you know, where I was thinking about what I should have for lunch, you know, a hamburger or tacos, and you know, a few pages go by and I'm still thinking about hamburgers and tacos, and I miss part of the story. And that doesn't happen to me very often in Stephen King, but I've read this 3 times, and it's happened to me quite a bit. So let's get to some of the you know, there's a lot of blood in this. There's some blood. Well, in the movie, there's the classic scene of the blood washing down the corridor. Now, every time I see that, it reminds me of my carpet cleaning days, when I think, unbeknownst to myself, I might have cleaned up some crime scenes that I wasn't aware of that were crime scenes at the time. When I walked into a house and it was just a bloody mess, and someone says, "Oh yeah, I cut my head open and I bled everywhere." Meanwhile, it looks like someone slaughtered a horse, you know, in the house, and I cleaned it up. But that smell, I always remember that smell of the blood as I was cleaning it up. Sorry to gross you out with that, but if you're a Stephen King fan, you're used to being grossed out. But anyway, that scene always just reminds me of the bloody messes that I saw as a carpet cleaner. And for those of you who followed my channel long enough, you also know that I worked at the Utah State Prison, and again, there's blood and stuff in there. And one of the things about the Stephen King novel is, you know, much like a prison setting, which Stephen King does great prison settings in a lot of his other books, and we'll get to those later, but prison settings are full of family drama gone wrong, just like in this book. And he gets those kind of things right. I just don't know why this book kind of dragged and bored me in some spots. I just don't know, because normally Stephen King books just don't do that for me. They usually keep me engaged. So this was his 3rd novel. It's the 3rd novel that I've reviewed so far. Carrie, I gave, I think about a 6.5 or 7. For his first novel, it was great. Salem's Lot raised the bar huge and high. That was about a 9 to a 9.5. I really loved Salem's Lot. This one, although I know that a lot of people, this is their favorite Stephen King novel, and it's always ranked in a lot of people's top 10s. This one, I'm going to rate it maybe about the same or a little lower than I rated Carrie. And I rated Carrie about 6.5, so I'll give this one a 6.5 also. So, if you disagree with my rating, I rate from 1 to 10. If you disagree with my rating, again, I still enjoyed most parts of this. I just found my mind wandered. If you disagree with the rating, please Please comment. Please let's have a discussion about it below with everybody. And please subscribe, and you'll see some other videos tagged here in a minute before you close out. But just every book that I write, The Forgetting Moon, Blackest Heart, Lonesome Crown, all the books that I write, remember, folks, I end every video with this. I dedicate every book that I write to Stephen King, right there, Motley Crue. I think that you can read Motley Crue. I don't know if it's backwards or not either. Motley Crue and the Oakland Raiders. Every book I write, I dedicate to Stephen King, Motley Crue, and the Oakland Raiders, because they were the most important things to me when I was a youngster. And so everybody, go out and pick up a copy of Salem's Lot. This one's printed backwards or upside down. I can't tell in the video. The video is really weird. The video has turned Stephen King on me. I don't know what's happened, but I'm just going to go with it. So everybody go out and buy a copy of Salem's Lot, read it, and let's see what you think of it, because Stephen King's Salem's Lot is a fairly decent novel.